Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. South Korea and the United States have finally reached a trade agreement, lowering the tariff rate from 25% to 15%. Seoul will also invest $350 billion in the U.S. and purchase $100 billion worth of energy products. And President Lee Jae-myung says the latest deal puts South Korea on an equal or even better footing than other countries, adding that it has removed trade uncertainties. The presidential office also says the two sides agreed not to further open South Korea's rice and beef markets. The U.S. Federal Reserve has decided to keep its key interest rate unchanged for the fifth consecutive meeting, defying President Donald Trump's demand for a rate cut. South Korea and the United States have struck a full trade deal, lowering the reciprocal tariffs on South Korean exports to 15%. President Donald Trump met with key Korean officials in Washington to finalize the agreement, which includes hundreds of billions of dollars in South Korean investment. Our Pyongyang starts us off.
South Korea and the U.S. have come to a complete trade deal that will see South Korea charged 15% tariffs. U.S. President Donald Trump held talks with Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Economy and Finance Koo Yoon-chol, Industry Minister Kim Jong-kwan, and Trade Minister Yeo Han-gu in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday local time. They finalized a trade deal just 2 days before the 25% U.S. reciprocal tariffs on South Korea were to come into effect on August 1st. Along with the 15% tariffs, South Korea will invest $350 billion for investments owned and controlled by the United States, which will be selected by Trump himself. Of that investment, $150 billion will be used for cooperation in the shipbuilding industry, and $200 billion will be invested in other sectors, such as semiconductors, nuclear energy, and biotechnology. The U.S. Department of Commerce also stated that the United States will hold 90% of the profits from South Korea's investment fund in the U.S. South Korea will also purchase $100 billion of LNG or other energy products and will further open its market to American products, including cars and agriculture. But South Korea's domestic rice and beef markets will not be further opened. And tariffs on automobiles have also been reduced to 15%. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick also stated that tariffs on South Korean semiconductors have been set at levels that are not less favorable than those applied to other countries. President Lee Jae-myung is set to visit the White House in 2 weeks for a bilateral meeting. Even though a full trade deal was reached, Finance Minister Koo Yoon-chol's meeting with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will take place as scheduled on Thursday. Pyongyang, Arirang News.
South Korea was quick to confirm the tariff deal with the U.S. this morning. For more on this, our top office correspondent Yoon Jung-min is on the line for us. Jung-min, what did President Lee Jae-myung have to say?
Yoon-ji, the president said the country has crossed a major hurdle to reach the deal, which has been a major challenge for the new administration. Taking to his social media account, President Lee said the deal has eliminated uncertainties in export conditions for the country and created a condition where Korean companies can compete on equal or superior terms with major competitors. He noted the investment fund worth $350 billion will solidify the foundation of bilateral cooperation in strategic sectors, such as shipbuilding, semiconductors, and rechargeable batteries. He went on to note that $150 billion will be solely committed to shipbuilding to help Korean shipbuilders make inroads into the U.S. He added that he expects the agreement will further strengthen the South Korea-U.S. alliance.
I see. And what's the latest from the presidential office?
The presidential chief of staff for policy, Kim Yong-bom, also confirmed the U.S. tariffs on South Korea will be lowered, including those on cars. Take a listen.
The U.S. reciprocal tariff set to be imposed on South Korea on August 1st will be lowered from 25% to 15%. Also, tariffs on cars, our main export items, will be lowered to 15%.
He went on to say that additional levies on semiconductors and pharmaceuticals will not be treated unfavorably when compared to other countries. Kim said the U.S. has been pushing to open up Korea's agricultural and livestock markets, such as rice and beef, but Korea did not agree to further open the markets, taking into account the sensitivity of the matter. The deal comes as top trade officials have been making their last-ditch efforts in the U.S. before the August 1st deadline set by U.S. President Trump. That is all for me at this hour. Back to you, Angie.
So as we just heard, Seoul and Washington have agreed on a trade deal allowing the United States to charge a 15% tariff on imports from South Korea. For more on this, we're joined by Professor Song Soo-young, professor at the College of Business and Economics at Chungang University. Professor Song, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, good morning to you, Angie.
So the two countries have finally reached a deal with the reciprocal tariff on South Korea lowered from 25% to 15%. What's your assessment of this latest agreement, and would you consider this a win for South Korea?
I'd like to say it is a kind of a success, and because at least we are not in a disadvantaged position at all. And in competition with Japan and other countries, we have a little bit advantageous position right now. Of course, for the time being, what is most important to United States should be a truce of the trade deal with China. But however, currently the Trump administration and the president's intention is to besiege China and make some alliance to have from the faraway remote countries to have some good relationship with United States. On the other hand, the United States has actually very hostile and aggressively put the oppression on the neighboring countries such as Canada and Mexico. We should be waiting and to see how it will be played out among the trade deal and the tariff deal with other countries. But I think the 15% would be most we can get right now. The issue is the Trumps has mentioned the $350 billion the Korea and the U.S. Korea investment in the United States. Actually, that is totally selected, and it is up to Trump's choice of which industry. I guess most likely to be a shipbuilding and some liquefied natural gas energy. Otherwise, they don't have any advantage or competitiveness against the Korean products. As a result, at least in 2 weeks, the detail will be determined during the upcoming 2 weeks and before the President Lee Jae-myung's visit to United States. All things will be determined.
I see. And like you just mentioned, Trump also announced that South Korea will invest $350 billion in the United States and buy $100 billion worth of U.S. energy products. And the U.S. Department of Commerce also said Washington will hold 90% of the profits from South Korea's investment fund. What's your take on this?
Actually, the fund was $350 billion, and according to President's office in South Korea, Mr. Kim has mentioned almost $150 billion should be focus on the shipbuilding, and such as we have some advantage on the side of rechargeable secondary battery and the semiconductors, and some manufacturing and the shipbuilding industries. So. United States would like to have some favorable investment from Korea to United States. On the other hand, we have, of course, these positions points are mentioned earlier, that the agricultural products, and we cannot but open some agricultural products market to the United States. So 0% tariff rate for U.S. import products such as some agricultural products or wheat and other beef products. And those are actually, it would be of help to US, Korean economy. The reason is we have a lower price for that. And for the protection of the Korean agricultural industry, I think we need to give some subsidy to the farmers and some peasants who are engaged in some agriculture industry. So that may not have some economic impact, but it could have some big political impact. Therefore, we should be careful, and then the government should be ready and prepared to help the workers and the labor workers who suffered from some opening of the agricultural products. And the cars and other manufacturing products imported from the United States, I don't think it would have some advantage on competitiveness against Korean car makers and the semiconductors. So currently, so far, I think this would be, I can say it is a success.
I see. I guess we'll have to hope that it doesn't affect Korean companies too much. All right, Professor Song, thank you so much for your insight today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Despite continued pressure from U.S. President Donald Trump for a rate cut, the U.S. Fed kept rates unchanged, holding its benchmark rate steady in the 4.25 to 4.5% range. However, two Fed governors called for a rate cut, marking the first time in 3 decades that two governors dissented on a decision. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
As widely anticipated, the U.S. Federal Reserve left its interest rates unchanged on Wednesday, holding its benchmark lending rate steady in the 4.25 to 4.5% range.
Today, the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged. We believe that the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential economic developments.
According to Powell, the U.S. Fed remains firmly focused on the dual mandate of maximum employment and stable prices, stressing that the economy is in a solid position despite ongoing uncertainty. He added that the unemployment rate remains low and that the labor market is considered at or near full employment, while inflation is running slightly above the Fed's 2% long-term target. The latest decision also came despite recent public pressure from President Donald Trump urging a rate cut. And earlier on Wednesday, Trump blamed Powell for the high interest rates, stressing that they hurt the American people.
Each point that this gentleman keeps up costs us $365 billion a year. Think of that. 1 point. $365 billion. If you bring it down a point, we save 365. We should be the lowest interest rate, and we're not. We're 38, number 38, because of the Fed. It's all because of the Fed. He's done a bad job. Now he's got to...
In a rare move, two Republican-appointed Fed governors, Christopher Waller and Michelle Bowman, dissented, signaling their preference for a rate cut of 25 basis points. That marks the first time since 1993 that two Fed governors have dissented on the same rate decision. Waller argued that while tariffs may temporarily push prices higher, the inflation impact will be short-lived, with levels returning to normal by next year. The next FOMC meeting is slated for September, with many anticipating a rate cut during the 6th scheduled meeting of the year. The rate freeze means the rate gap with the Bank of Korea stands at 1.75 to 2%. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korea's defense minister An Yu-baek held his first phone call with U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth on Thursday, with both sides agreeing to strengthen extended deterrence against North Korean threats and cooperate on shipbuilding. While describing the ROK-U.S. alliance as blood-forged, An said he hopes to further develop the alliance into a comprehensive strategic one that is future-oriented. The two saw eye-to-eye on deepening extended deterrence efforts to counter North Korea's threats, including its illegal military ties with Russia. They also agreed to modernize the alliance and expand cooperation in fields including shipbuilding, as well as maintenance, repair, and overhaul in that industry. As part of his push to boost American manufacturing, U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Wednesday, ending the long-standing exemption that allowed duty-free imports of low-cost parcels into the United States. Starting on August 29th, shipments valued under $800 will no longer be exempt from tariffs. Instead, they'll be taxed based on the item and its country of origin to close what was described as a tariff loophole. Trump said the policy shift is aimed at reducing U.S. dependence on foreign goods and narrowing trade deficits that he argues have disadvantaged American workers. South Korea saw yet another hot summer night on Wednesday into Thursday, marking a record-breaking number of tropical nights in July, as a prolonged heat wave continues to grip the country. The number of tropical nights this month reached 22, surpassing the 21 recorded in 1994. It's also the longest streak in 117 years, since data was first compiled in 1907. A tropical night occurs when nighttime temperatures remain above 25 degrees Celsius between 6 p.m. and 9 a.m. the following day. With heat wave warnings in place in most parts of the country, the daytime temperature in Seoul is expected to reach 36 degrees today. As the intense heat continues, people are finding ways to cool off in a unique and spooky way at a historic-themed village that transforms into a haunted world full of traditional ghosts of spine-chilling horror and experience. Our Park Eun-woo was there.
A quiet, peaceful village by day. But as darkness falls, a chill creeps in and eerie whispers echo through the air. Under the crescent moon, ghosts began to appear. Summer may be the hottest season, but for many in Korea, it's also the coolest in a spooky kind of way. One popular destination is the Horror Village in the Dead of Night Festival, running until the end of August at the Korean folk village in Yongin in Gyeonggi-do Province. Korean ghosts are souls with unresolved sorrow, or han. They don't just scare you, but they carry a story, one they never got to finish. So what kind of sorrow are you holding on to?
결혼을 못한 채로 죽었어.
From virgin ghosts to a local version of the Grim Reaper, these traditional Korean spirits send chills down visitors' spines, especially when they appear out of nowhere.
It's been scorching hot lately, so I thought this horror experience might blow away the heat. I kept sweating and shivering.
It's way different to watching movies.
From haunted escape rooms to scream-filled walkthroughs, flashing red lights and scary sounds greet those who dare to enter.
나가! 이리 들어오는 거 아니야? 저쪽이야! 잘못 들어왔어!
Even the food gets creepy, including the bloody finger latte, topped with a broken finger-shaped cookie. Some restaurants are splattered with blood, with things appearing above visitors' heads.
I thought it was a regular restaurant until I saw ghosts hanging above. I almost fell over in shock, but it's unique and fun. I was too scared to even feel the heat.
The restrooms are also haunted, dimly lit up with red lights, with ghosts waiting for you, some appearing in the mirror. At the end of the night, visitors who turned into ghosts with costumes and painted faces competed with each other to see who was the scariest. It seems like a peaceful, happy ending. But beware, these ghosts will return with the next dark night until August 24th. So, for those looking for an experience of Korea's haunted summer nights, good luck. Park Eun-woo, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and this is The World Now. Beginning with Canada, which has announced it will formally recognize the state of Palestine at the UN General Assembly in September. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced the decision in a cabinet meeting on Wednesday. But he said that recognition of Palestine's statehood depends on the Palestinian Authority holding general elections in 2026, excluding participation by Hamas and committing to demilitarization, alongside urgent governance reforms. Carney also described conditions in Gaza as intolerable, citing widespread humanitarian suffering. The announcement follows France and the United Kingdom making similar conditional recognition pledges earlier this week. Canada is also among 15 countries that co-signed the New York Call, which calls for the recognition of Palestine's statehood and a push toward a two-state solution. Israel's foreign ministry criticized Canada's move to recognize a Palestinian state, arguing that it rewards terrorism and undermines ceasefire negotiations. Meanwhile, the UN World Food Programme stated on Tuesday that it could officially declare a famine in the Gaza Strip unless conditions drastically improve. Tsunami warnings across the Pacific, including Hawaii, Japan, and parts of the U.S. West Coasts, have been significantly downgraded as the risk of tsunamis subsides. On Wednesday, an 8.8 magnitude quake struck Russia's Kamchatka coast, prompting tsunami alerts across North America's Pacific coast and other parts of the Pacific. However, the warnings have now been downgraded or removed as the tsunami threat has diminished. Authorities emphasized continued caution and avoiding water because of the ongoing aftershocks and risk of strong currents. Meanwhile, alerts are still in place in Chile, and evacuations had been ordered in parts of Ecuador, Peru, Chile, and the Galapagos Islands. Former U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris announced on Wednesday that she will not run for governor of California in the 2026 race. Harris said that after deep reflection, she has decided not to pursue elected office at this time, citing her intention to focus on broader national service and support Democratic candidates across the country. With Governor Gavin Newsom term limited, several high-profile contenders, including former United States Secretary of Health and Human Services Javier Becerra, have announced their candidacies. Although Harris ruled out the governor position, she did not eliminate the possibility of running for president in 2028, stating that she will get back out and listen to the American people. 31-year-old German double Olympic biathlon champion Laura Dahlmeier has died in a mountaineering accident in northern Pakistan, according to reports on Wednesday. Officials confirmed she was killed on Monday, July 28th, when she was struck by a sudden rockfall while climbing in Pakistan's Karakoram Mountains at an altitude of about 5,700 meters. Rescue helicopters were grounded due to severe weather and persistent rockfall, making recovery efforts difficult. In line with Dahlmeier's written wish, her family has requested that no one risk their lives to recover her remains. Dahlmeier won 2 gold medals and a bronze at the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympics, as well as 7 World Championship titles and the 2016-17 World Cup overall crown, before retiring from biathlon in 2019.
It's the last day of July when the summer heat in Korea usually peaks, but it's been too hot this year. In fact, this year, July's nights have been the hottest on record since observations began. We've had a total of 22 tropical nights up to today here in Seoul. And with heat wave alerts remaining in place in almost all regions, afternoon highs will climb above 35 degrees Celsius again in most parts. Meanwhile, light rain is expected on Jeju until this morning with strong winds, and parts of Gangwon-do and the western coast of Jeollanam-do province can see some scattered showers until late this afternoon. Sunny skies expected for most parts except in Seoul and Chuncheon with a high of 36 degrees Celsius, Gyeongju, Gwangju topping out at 35 degrees. In fact, this intense heat will continue through August, so please take well care of yourself.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.